And we see a lot of bills at the Capitol surrounding Colorado's outdoors, from outdoor projects to proposed regulations for the oil and gas industries. The debate over the outdoors and who gets to do what isn't always an easy one. And joining us now to talk about some of these topics is Pete Maysmith, the Executive Director of Conservation Colorado. So we're glad to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Pete. So what are some of the issues that were most top of mind for conservationists at the Capitol this year?
Sure, I think there were several of them. The one that I think probably got the most attention is about rain barrels, if you can believe that. 49 states in our country allow people to collect rainwater and to water their tomatoes or their vegetable or flower gardens, right? Colorado was the only state that didn't allow that. That's going to change once Governor Hickenlooper signs it into law. Both chambers have passed that bill, and it's now waiting the governor's signature on his desk. It's really exciting to see.
What was the issue with that? I mean, why was it an issue?
That's a great question. I don't think we know why it was an issue. This should be a no-brainer. I'll tell you, of all the issues that we've worked on over the years, this was the one that generated the most public support in all sorts of different ways, because I think it was so intuitive. People just knew it's a good idea to be able to capture some rainwater and water their flowers and their vegetables. I think the reason the opposition was from some old-time water providers who are really attached to the old way of doing business and couldn't let go of that very easily.
And I think the Clean Power Plan was another issue that Marshall and I were discussing. Give us the 30-second explanation of what the issue is with that.
I'd be happy to. So the Clean Power Plan is President Obama's signature effort to tackle climate change, and it would cut carbon pollution from coal-fired power plants both here in Colorado and nationally. It is an easy win for Colorado in the sense that it will clean our air, give us a healthier environment, and tackle climate change. And for everything Colorado has already done with wind and solar energy and energy efficiency, we are well positioned to comply with the Clean Power Plan, but it got trapped in some partisan back and forth this session.
So it's interesting. When it comes to the state budget, you would have thought, education funding might have been held up somewhere, or maybe we're not going to give so much to transportation. But the biggest obstacle was $8.5 million to achieve the Clean Power Plan. Most of it got through in the end. What's lacking still?
Well, that $8.5 million is a fascinating topic. That $8.5 million that Republicans in the state Senate voted to cut would have been our entire air quality control division in the state of Colorado. Those are the folks that make sure that we have our crystal clear blue skies and that we continue to beat the brown cloud that years ago we had to battle. There's still about $111,000 that was cut out of that budget. That's obviously a de minimis amount compared to $8.5 million, and the Air Quality Control Division is going to be fine and able to move forward, including being able to make sure that we're tackling carbon pollution here in Colorado.
Well, I saw earlier in the week the American Lung Association had this study that Denver was 8th worst in air quality.
That's right.
Do those correlate, this funding for air pollution and that study?
Well, I think what it correlates to is we need to make sure that this remains a priority. So we know through recent polling, as a matter of fact, that Coloradans rank a healthy outdoor lifestyle above economic opportunities and tax amounts for reasons to live here in Colorado. It's part of our culture. It's part of our fabric to go to the mountains, to go to our local parks, to see our crystal clear blue skies, to play in our rivers, whether you want to raft or fish or whatever you want to do. It's part of the fabric of our society, and this air quality issue gets right at that. We need to do better. We need more funding. We need to keep clearing our skies.
Okay, so the legislature is running out of time here. So what is your priority for this next week?
Yeah. Well, there's a bill in the legislature that would create a public lands day here in Colorado. We know that over 70% of Coloradans are more likely to vote for a political candidate who prioritizes protecting public lands versus a candidate who does not. So we know Coloradans value their open spaces and their public lands. This would give us we'd be the first state. We were the last in the rain barrel, right, parade. This would put us first in the parade to announce a public holiday just to celebrate our public lands. It's already made its way partly through the legislature, and it still has a bit of a journey to go, and we hope it is completed and ultimately signed into law.
Environmental issues could make people glaze over at times. So should a candidate running, whether we're talking U.S. Senate, President, whatever office, how much time should they really spend talking about this, or will it start to bore somebody?
Well, I don't think it bores somebody given that it trues up with Coloradans' values. So let's look at renewable energy like wind and solar. Think back to the United States Senate campaign just a couple years ago. Mark Udall and Senator Gardner, at the time U.S. Representative Cory Gardner. First ad that candidate Gardner ran was in front of a wind turbine, talking about the value of renewable energy. So the point is that Republicans, Democrats, and independents understand that the more wind and solar energy we do and pivot away from last century's reliance on fossil fuels, that matters, and it resonates with Coloradans. People don't run ads like that just by accident. They do that because they know that it resonates with Coloradans.
Other issues on the national level we should be focused on?
Well, I mean, I think climate change writ large is just critical. 2015 was a really exciting year if you think about it. Couple just big things. The Pope came out talking about climate change in a way that we've never seen on the international stage. The Clean Power Plan was finalized. We've already talked about that. And then also there were the Paris agreements where 195 nations came together in December of 2015 to agree we need to cut greenhouse gases. We need to cut carbon emissions to make sure that our planet doesn't warm to an unsustainable level. That gives a level of hope and optimism and, frankly, inevitability that we're going to move forward on this clean energy march. We need to do it here in Colorado and then also nationally and, of course, internationally, and that's what Paris is moving us towards.
Hope and optimism doesn't necessarily fill my tank the cheapest way, though. Where are we? How far are we away from me being able to drive a car at the same cost using cleaner energy than I am getting oil and gas right now?
Well, I think you can ask the 300,000 folks that paid $1,000 each to sign up for a Tesla, which is all, you know, an electric vehicle. You don't fill your tank, you just plug it in, and of course we're going to be powering that more and more with wind and solar energy. So that's a lot of optimism that isn't just blind hope, but actual plunking money down on the table. You all saw the story in the Denver Post with the Tesla store in Douglas County. The lines wrapped around the building for that car. That's just, there's many other examples. That's one example.
On a side note, do you have $300,000 I could borrow?
Wow.
I don't, no, but thanks for asking, Marshall.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.